My name is Jackson, and I live in Riverside, a simple town surrounded by green hills and flowing rivers. For as long as I can remember, I dreamed of becoming a successful software developer. I would look at my favorite apps and wonder how they were created. But sitting at my desk most days, I struggled to focus. My mind often raced with thoughts about everything except my work. I would check my phone repeatedly, scroll through social media, or find endless reasons to take breaks. This lack of focus was not just a small issue, it was starting to harm my career and growth. Every morning, I awoke with hope that today would be better. I would vow to ignore distractions, but by midday, I often found myself lost in an email thread or staring blankly at my computer screen. I felt frustrated and worried. I wanted to change, but I didn't know how. My dreams seemed distant and there was a weight on me that made it hard to breathe. The pressure of deadlines often hung over me like a storm cloud, and that cloud deepened my feelings of self-doubt. One day, as I walked through Riverside Park, clear and bright, I noticed a little boy intently focused on painting a picture. It struck me how hard he tried, and he didn't mind the noise around him, he was simply lost in his art. I smiled at the sight, but deep within, I felt a tug of envy. I longed for the same focus. As I took a long breath of the fresh air, something inside me sparked. Perhaps I could find a way to become more like that boy and learn to focus deeply on my work. That thought was the start of my journey, a journey toward deeper work and focus. I was excited to start my journey toward better focus, but soon the reality of it set in. I planned my first day to be different from all the others. With my coffee in hand, I set my timer for 30 minutes. I was going to try to work without any distractions. But as soon as I opened my laptop, I found it hard to stick to my plan. My phone buzzed. It was a message from a friend. I told myself just one quick check would not hurt. But instead of a minute, I was scrolling for 10, and by that time, the 30-minute timer rang. I felt a wave of disappointment wash over me. How could I fail so quickly? I kicked myself, feeling like a child who couldn't stay on task. The day continued like this. I tried closing all my apps, turning my phone off, and even wearing headphones to block out noise. But even then, I found my mind wandering. I would think about all the things I wanted to do, like playing video games, going for a walk, or meeting friends. Every time I tried to focus, a struggle raged inside me. A part of me wanted to work hard, but another part just craved comfort and fun. I often ended up giving in to the easier path, allowing my old habits to pull me back. As the days passed, self-doubt crept in. I wondered if I would ever be able to improve. Why was it so easy for everyone else to concentrate? I questioned whether I was smart enough or dedicated enough to become the developer I dreamed of being. These thoughts wrapped around me like a heavy blanket, making it even harder to break free from distractions. Every time I opened my work, that weight reminded me of my failures, holding me back from trying again. Then, during one of my coffee breaks, I stumbled upon a book by Cal Newport called Deep Work. At first, I thought this book would just be another list of tips I wouldn't follow. But something about the title drew me to it. I saw the library's bright, inviting cover and felt a little spark of hope. With a hint of curiosity, I took it home. In the first few pages, the author explained how deep work could change lives. He talked about how distractions steal our time and energy, draining our ability to create and learn. I felt his words ringing true, echoing my own struggles. The book encouraged me to work with focus, and in that moment, something shifted inside me. Maybe I wasn't alone in this battle. Maybe others had fought the same fight and found their way through. As I read, I learned practical strategies for deep work and realized I could try them. The idea of the shutdown routine caught my interest. The author suggested setting clear work hours and then completely shutting down at the end of those hours. This meant letting go of work and distractions, allowing my mind to rest. I decided I could try this new approach. I felt lighter, with a hopeful heart urging me to chase my goal once again. With a new determination, I decided to take the first steps to apply what I learned from Cal Newport's book. I created a simple plan for my day, focusing on short bursts of deep work. I would work for 25 minutes, then take a 5-minute break. This way, I could train my mind to concentrate without feeling overwhelmed. On my first day trying this method, I sat at my desk with my phone silenced and distractions removed. I thought about the little boy in the park who had focused so deeply on his painting. I wanted to feel that kind of focus, too. I breathed deeply and set my timer for 25 minutes. At first, everything felt hard. My mind wanted to wander just like before. Thoughts about what I would have for lunch crept in and tried to pull me away. But remembering my goal, I kindly nudged those thoughts aside and kept pushing forward, glancing at me to remind myself I was trying to grow. Slowly but surely, it began to get easier. I focused on the code on my screen. Each minute felt vibrant and purposeful, like I was moving deeper into my work. When the timer rang, I was shocked. Not only had I completed my focus session, but I also felt like I had gotten things done. I felt a small sense of victory building inside me. Encouraged by this first small win, I repeated the same practice the next day. This time, I even managed to extend my focus time to 30 minutes. I could feel my confidence creeping back in. Every session seemed to open a door in my mind. I was finishing tasks I had left hanging for weeks. My productivity was rising, and that lifted my spirits. However, just when I felt that I was finally making real progress, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, my manager called a surprise meeting. I rushed to the conference room, already feeling anxious about speaking in front of the team. While half listening, I began to feel the pressure of everyone's eyes on me. My attention scattered, and I felt overwhelmed. I struggled to gather my thoughts, and when it was finally my turn to speak, the words seemed to flee. Panic filled my mind, I was caught off guard and forgot to breathe. I began to fumble over my explanation of a project I had worked hard on. In that moment, I was not the confident person I had wanted to be. I thought about everything I could have done wrong. After the meeting ended, I took a moment to regain my breath. A wave of disappointment washed over me as I sunk into my chair. I realized I wasn't completely where I wanted to be yet. While I had made some progress towards improving my focus, I still struggled with my confidence in high-pressure situations. Doubt rose once more. Was I really cut out for this? I knew I needed to find a way to better manage my emotions during those stressful moments. I remembered Cal's book reminding me that growth is never a straight path. It doesn't happen overnight. Perhaps it was okay to have tough moments as long as I kept pushing forward. I promised myself that just as I had tackled my focus, I would meet this new challenge head-on. Every small step was still a victory, no matter how big or small. And with that thought, I began to feel that spark of hope return once more. Just as my confidence began to grow, an unexpected challenge landed on my desk like a storm cloud rolling in. My manager announced that a critical project, something I had only been involved with on the sidelines, was now my responsibility. This project was massive and had a tight deadline. My heart raced, I felt the weight of expectations pressing down on me. Suddenly, all my progress in focus and work seemed insignificant. The meeting was tense, filled with discussions about features, deadlines, and goals. My co-workers looked confident and engaged, throwing around ideas quickly. But inside, I felt like a deer caught in headlights. A wave of anxiety swept over me, and I could hear the doubts in my head growing louder. What if I failed? Was I really capable of handling this? In those moments, I forgot everything I had learned about deep work. My mind was foggy, and I wanted to escape. It felt as if my old habits were clawing their way back into my thoughts, tempting me to retreat to safety. Back at my desk, I tried to dive in, yet nothing seemed to stick. I couldn't focus. Each time I attempted to write an outline of the project, my mind would race back to the meeting. I replayed it over and over, hearing my coworkers' confident voices and the way they tossed around complex ideas. I felt small. My heart sank as I remembered the nervousness I had felt just sharing my part of the project in the meeting. I longed to slip back into a quieter time when my tasks had felt manageable, safe. That evening, while sitting in front of my laptop, tears of frustration welled in my eyes. I closed the laptop, feeling defeated. The fears I thought I had settled began to rush back. Would I ever have what it took to be a successful developer? I imagined the project failing and letting my team down. I could see my dreams slipping away, and the struggle felt unbearable. It was in these moments of despair that my old self whispered all the reasons I might not succeed. But just when doubt consumed me, something shifted inside. I remembered walking through Riverside Park, watching that little boy stay focused while painting a picture. He didn't give up when things seemed difficult. Instead, he poured himself into his work, guided by pure passion and purpose. That image forced me to take a hard look in the mirror. I realized I needed to find that same single-mindedness within myself. Taking a deep breath, I opened my notebook again. This time, I began to write down everything that scared me about the project. I challenged myself to transform those fears into specific tasks. Instead of focusing on everything at once, I could break it down, step by step. Somehow, this small shift began to ground me. I still felt the heaviness of my doubt, but instead of letting it consume me, I started writing. With each word, I felt as though I was reclaiming power over my anxiety. I might not have all the answers yet, but I could at least begin to outline my plan. It was a hard path ahead, but for the first time that day, I felt a flicker of hope returning, knowing that I could still challenge my old self and strive forward. The pressure of the project began to consume me entirely. My head pounded with stress, and my stomach felt like it was tied in knots. Each day, I convinced myself to stay late to make progress, but the harder I tried, the more afraid I became of failing. As the due date approached, I felt as if I were climbing a steep hill with no end in sight. I thought about giving up and going back to my old ways. That seemed easier. Waking up without the weight of responsibilities or fears might have felt like a relief. I almost let myself fall into that idea. One night, sitting alone in my dim living room, I turned on the TV just to escape from my worries. The shows distracted me from the cries of self-doubt swirling in my thoughts. After a while, I caught a glimpse of a scene in a documentary about famous athletes overcoming obstacles. One athlete had been recovering from an injury and faced what seemed to be insurmountable odds. I listened as the narrator spoke about resilience and determination. The story shared how this athlete had once thought of giving up but fought through the pain and found the strength deep within themselves to keep pushing. Suddenly, their struggle mirrored my own, and I felt a connection. I remembered my own journey, how I had decided to break free from distractions and strive for better focus. It wasn't just about finishing a project, it was about growth, learning, and becoming the person I wanted to be. I took a shaky breath as realization started to sink in. It was okay to struggle. Growth does not happen in a straight line, it twists and turns, just like life itself. In that moment, I thought of the little boy who painted with such focus and joy. He didn't navigate his art perfectly every time, but he kept going, driven by his love for what he was creating. I imagined other moments in my life when I had faced difficulties, yet each time, I had made the choice to try again. I remembered the feeling of overcoming small obstacles and how each step forward had filled me with joy. Each of those moments was a building block in my own story. With this insight, I felt a renewed sense of determination. Instead of giving in to despair, I wanted to tackle this challenge with everything I had. I opened my notebook and wrote down everything I remembered from the documentary. I reminded myself that progress requires persistence despite setbacks. Mental resilience is not about avoiding obstacles, it is about embracing them, understanding that they help us grow stronger. Feeling lighter and more grounded, I began to write a plan for the project once more. This time, I laid out the steps I needed to take, outlining each part of the project one by one. I set realistic goals, recognizing that progress takes time. I regained focus on why I started this journey, to become better at my craft and to find joy in the work I was doing. With purpose creeping back in, I committed to taking the project one task at a time, connecting each step with the hope that had flickered inside me again. I could see a way forward, and with that clarity, doubt lost its grip on me, sparking the flame of resilience I needed to finish what I started. With my newfound determination burning bright, I jolted myself into action. My notebook served as my guide, listing everything I needed to complete for the project. I broke down the tasks, grouping them into manageable portions. I aligned my plan with time slots to immerse myself in deep work and focused bursts. Each morning, I faced the day with renewed hope, reminding myself that every struggle was just a step in my journey toward growth. On the first day of this focus-filled week, I sat down with my computer, my fingers hovering over the keys. The pressure hung in the air like a thick fog, but instead of freezing in fear, I took a deep breath and tackled the first task on my list. It was the most complicated section of the project, dealing with new features I'd never coded before. My heart raced, and doubt tried to creep back in. But I pushed those thoughts aside. I recalled the athlete from the documentary, reminding myself that overcoming challenges makes us stronger. For the first half hour, I worked intensely, coding and rewriting lines to shape my ideas. I made mistakes, and each time something didn't work, frustration sparked within me. Yet instead of falling into despair, I took a moment to breathe and remind myself that mistakes were part of learning. I wrote down the errors I encountered, working each issue one at a time. Each resolved problem felt like a small victory, igniting my spirit. I summoned my willpower to keep my focus narrow, despite the urge to give in to distractions. As I continued to chip away at the project, the old habits still whispered in my ear, trying to entangle my thoughts. With sheer determination, I decided to remain present and embrace those moments of doubt. I acknowledged them, telling myself that facing them head-on was vital to my growth. That evening, as I wrapped up another long session, I realized that the project was coming together. There were still hurdles to overcome, but my work felt more managed, my mind less clouded. Each small step forward showcased my resilience. I also noticed something shifting inside me, an awareness growing that showed me I could handle pressure. Around midweek, I hit a significant roadblock. A part of my code threw a temperamental fit, refusing to run as planned. I stared at the screen for a while, confused and exhausted. Feeling helpless, frustration bubbled to the surface again. For a moment, I debated setting everything aside. But rather than sulking, I let the struggle be my guide. I remembered my earlier insights about resilience and persistence. I took a moment to find my calm. With determination reigning in my thoughts, I stepped away from the computer and grabbed a notepad. I began sketching out the problem. Writing down my ideas helped unlock my focus once again. I sketched out the core logic I needed for the code in simple terms. After a while, I returned to the screen with fresh eyes and a clearer mind. As I began retracing every component part of the code, I gradually found the flaw hiding within. One of the smallest details had been wrong. After correcting the issue, I hit the Run button nervously. This time, the code executed perfectly. The exhilaration rushed through me. I had pushed through my doubts and conquered the challenge, applying all I had learned so far. This victory in the face of adversity ignited a newfound belief in my ability to tackle future obstacles, building my confidence even more. The moment I hit the Run button and saw my code work perfectly, a wave of joy washed over me. I couldn't believe I had pushed through. I had focused deeply, strategized effectively, and overcome my self-doubt. As I leaned back in my chair, I felt both a sense of relief and pride filling me. I had completed the project successfully, but the real victory was in the lessons I had learned along the way. In the days that followed, my hard work began to bear fruit. My manager praised my contributions in a team meeting, acknowledging the effort and creativity I had put into the project. Hearing this praise felt great, but what mattered most to me was not the acknowledgement itself, it was how I had arrived there. I reflected on how I once believed that distractions controlled my life. Now, I understood how to seize my attention and develop the resilience to press through challenges. I spent that evening replaying the journey in my mind. I remembered the early struggles and the doubts that clouded my thoughts. Times when I almost gave up flashed vividly before me, showing me just how far I had come. I recognized how fear had once held me back, but through genuine effort and commitment to my growth, I pushed beyond those limits. I had transformed self-doubt into determination. While it would be easy to brush off the obstacles as merely difficult moments, I knew they were crucial to my learning. Each mistake I had faced wasn't a failure but a stepping stone that equipped me for the next project. I felt a warm glow of confidence. Challenges would still come my way, but I now understood how to meet them with resilience instead of retreat. As I took a long breath, I realized that my journey was not just about completing one project, it was a pivotal point for my personal development. My focus had deepened, and my mental toughness had increased significantly. It struck me that the process of learning, from code to pushing through moments of doubt, had changed me fundamentally. I was no longer the person who felt overwhelmed by uncertainty or weighed down by distractions. The night after my project was successful, I took a walk through Riverside Park again, feeling the night air on my skin. Reflecting on the boy who painted with passion, I felt a deep connection to his single-mindedness. At that moment, I vowed to approach not just work but life in a similar way, striving to stay present and engaged. As the moonlight illuminated the path ahead, I understood that this journey had laid a new foundation for my future endeavors. I documented my triumphs and challenges in my notebook, noting key strategies that worked for me. I would use these takeaways for upcoming projects, thereby solidifying the lessons learned. In my heart, I felt more than just a focus seeker. I was a thinker, an active learner, and now, someone willing to embrace the road ahead, flaws, challenges, and all. Each page I filled became a reminder of how growth occurs, encapsulating moments of struggle and victory woven into my evolving story. There was a world of learning ahead of me, and I was ready to embrace it with both open arms and a focused mind. With the success of my project still fresh in my mind, I began applying my newfound mental strength across different areas of my life. The habits I had developed during that intense period transformed my daily routine. No longer was I the person who easily succumbed to distractions or allowed fears to dictate my actions. I had discovered tools to strengthen my mind, and I was ready to embrace them fully. Each morning, I followed a routine that set me up for success. I would wake up early, giving myself a quiet moment to reflect before the world stirred. I practiced mindfulness, taking a few minutes to breathe deeply and visualize my goals for the day. This small practice became a powerful foundation for tackling any challenges that came my way. I found that starting my day with intention chased away the chaos that so often clouded my mind. At work, I used my time management strategies to keep distractions at bay. My desk was organized, and I turned off notifications on my phone and computer. I set specific focus sessions, and when I sat down to work, I did so with the determination to accomplish my goals. I could feel a difference in my energy and my productivity. Tasks that once felt burdensome now seemed manageable, and my confidence soared with every completed job. As I grew more focused, others began to take notice. My co-workers commented on the way I tackled projects with clarity and direction. They could see what my changes were doing, both in my work and my approach. It was as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't feel like I needed to rush or overwhelm myself anymore. Instead, I understood the balance of working hard and giving myself space to breathe. Beyond work, I applied my lessons to my personal life. I started setting boundaries to protect my time and energy. I began to say no more often, recognizing that overcommitment was futile. With this empowered attitude, I focused on relationships that truly mattered. I made time for friends and family, realizing that nurturing connections brought joy to my life. Whenever feelings of stress weaved their way back in, I had the tools and knowledge to confront them. I learned to recognize the early signs of anxiety and focus on my breathing, centering myself before stress took over. It could be something as simple as a deep breath or a quick walk outside to gain clarity. This shift in coping strategies helped me maintain my composure, allowing me to face challenges without the overwhelming heaviness I used to feel. One afternoon, during a busy period, a colleague approached me for help with her own project frustrations. As she spoke, I realized how much my mindset had shifted. Instead of joining her in worrying, I listened thoughtfully and shared what I had learned about resilience and focus. I offered to help her organize her tasks, just as I had learned to do for myself. Witnessing the spark of inspiration in her eyes felt rewarding. I recognized the power of what I had learned not only for myself but for others too. Gradually, I found myself leading by example. The strength I had cultivated within pushed me to inspire others around me. My journey was far from over, but I felt a buoyancy in facing whatever lay ahead, armed with the confidence that my experiences had built. I now knew that every day was an opportunity to apply the lessons I had learned, empowering not only myself but those I cared about as well. Life was a canvas waiting for me to paint my picture, one filled with focus, strength, and unyielding growth. As I stood at my desk, looking back on the whirlwind of the past few weeks, I felt a sense of triumph wash over me. The challenges I faced had transformed into stepping stones, guiding me toward a version of myself I had longed to become. I couldn't help but smile. I was no longer the overwhelmed person who struggled to focus. Instead, I emerged as someone who understood the importance of mental resilience and deliberate effort. Reflecting on my journey, I recognized how my mindset had evolved dramatically. The frustrations and fears that often echoed in my head had less power over me now. Rather than surrendering to distractions, I had learned to tackle them head-on and develop strategies to cultivate a stronger focus. I absorbed the lessons like sunshine, allowing the warmth of positivity to illuminate my path. I felt proud of the person I had become. Each morning now resonated with a renewed sense of purpose, filled with routines that kept me centered. I approached my work with confidence, aware that setbacks could surface but not deter me. I had tasted struggle and understood that failure did not mean the end. Instead, it was an invitation to learn, grow, and adapt. Every challenge had shaped me, sculpting a new outlook on life that gave me strength and hope. Another project was coming up, a chance to apply all that I had learned. I could feel the familiar buzz of excitement sparking within me. The responsibilities still felt weighty, but this time I welcomed the challenge. I had tools at my disposal, practical strategies to enhance my focus, and the strength of mind to persevere despite obstacles. The upcoming tasks were not just job requirements, they were opportunities for me to further grow, proving to myself that progress is continuous. Moreover, I had become a source of support for others. My colleagues started approaching me for advice and encouragement. These small interactions reaffirmed the lessons I had learned, showing me how valuable it was to share my experience. I enjoyed helping others reclaim their focus and guiding them to break down their tasks into manageable pieces. Watching them succeed was just as rewarding as achieving my goals, reminding me that the journey of growth is sweeter when shared. As I settled in for the new challenges ahead, I realized that my road would not be free of obstacles. There would always be encounters that tested my resolve. However, I now approached each challenge with the belief that I had the power to confront them with resilience and clarity. The lessons learned and the hope I held propelled me forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever could come my way. Finally, one lasting thought echoed in my mind: resilience isn't just built through success, it's forged through struggle. It requires patience, self-awareness, and the courage to confront our fears head-on. To be resilient is to embrace the journey of personal growth wholeheartedly. Now, I felt ready to navigate new paths, challenge myself further, and hold tightly to the transformative power of focus and determination. With renewed strength, I marked the start of this next chapter in my journey, ready to embrace the opportunities that awaited me. I felt genuinely hopeful, not just for myself, but for everyone willing to turn their challenges into growth. The horizon beckoned vibrantly before me, a canvas ready for the strokes of my new, confident self. Life was waiting, I was ready to paint it with every shade of resilience I could summon.